So welcome everyone here tonight. My name is Michael Ramos. I'm the Executive Director of the Church Council of Greater Seattle, and I want to extend a welcome to each and every one of you who are here tonight. Your voice is very important as we discuss these important issues, and there will be an extensive time for questions and answers later on in the meeting. And if you haven't had a chance to sign in with Bon at the front, you can put your name on the list, and we'll just go down the list later, and you'll be able to ask your question as we discuss these issues before us. Welcome to this community meeting to discuss King County's plans to open an overnight shelter at the former White Center Public Health Building. As you know, this is part of the public process to discuss this proposed shelter, to learn about the issues that are involved in the shelter, to ask any questions, to allay concerns, and to continue this process of community building in this wonderful community of White Center. As you are aware, there are over 10,000 people in King County who experience homelessness on any given night, with the most recent one-night count saying that 4,505 people go without any shelter whatsoever on a given night. With that in mind, the county executive and the mayor of Seattle both declared states of emergency approximately a year ago out of a concern to find new and creative ways to alleviate suffering and humanize a situation that could befall any of us in a particular time. If we have a catastrophic health loss, a loss of a job, a divorce, other situations that could befall us. Many of us are in a situation that, but for the grace of God, go I. We can experience, and some of you may have experienced the traumatic experience of homelessness, and it's something we don't want anyone to go through. And when it happens, we want to do everything we can to be supportive as a community. And I know you have over these many years. I am part of the All Home coordinating body. The All Home was formerly the Committee to End Homelessness in King County. And as part of that body, we work to end homelessness, and we try to root it in the best practices to make the experience of homelessness rare, brief, and one time. I know from the work of the Salvation Army that is slated to operate this shelter, and the other community organizations, and the work of King County, that with supportive services, the robust pursuit of housing options and companionship, this shelter can be a place of hope and healing for this community. Let's take a look at the agenda for tonight's meeting. We will discuss the background and need for this shelter with Mark Ellerbrook from King County. Then we will have leadership from the Salvation Army discuss the shelter operations. And then Celie and Steve. Where are you, Celie and Steve? Your leaders in the community who you probably all know. They will share a little bit about future plans and thoughts related to the development of the community. And then we will have an extensive time for comments, questions, and answers. Does that sound reasonable for an agenda? Well, if we need to, we'll extend the time. We'll get to the Q&A, and we'll make sure that your voice is heard. Note that the comments will be audio recorded. There will be written notes taken of your comments, and then I believe that frequently asked questions and comments will be posted on the website of King County. So we'll do everything to make sure that your voice is heard tonight. So we'll do what we can with the time that we have, and if we need to extend it a bit, we will do that. So I want to suggest some ground rules for our discussion. I want to see if everyone's agreeable to that as we get going, and then that will allow everyone's voice to be heard. What you have to say tonight is very important, and King County is determined to hear it. They want to hear your voice tonight. My suggestions around ground rules for a conversation in order to have a civil conversation is suggested to seek to understand what's entailed by this shelter, to understand what's being planned, to respect each other when we're speaking, take the opportunity to listen to each other, especially to points of view that might be different from our own. There are many different viewpoints here tonight. Try to pay attention to the person that is speaking. It's a lot easier, having been involved in many community discussions, to not have a lot of side discussions going on, but that we're all listening to the person who's speaking, give them our due attention. Trust that we'll get to your question. We will try to address as many questions as possible, and to be responsive, even if it requires follow-up by King County or the Salvation Army afterwards. Conversation is not for a time for long speeches. There are other settings for that, and we really don't want to have disruption. I like to say in the community meetings, I'm from New York City. I'm a very easygoing guy, but don't bring out the New York City in me tonight in the meeting.
Don't bring out the mindset. Don't bring out the mindset.
There you go. There you go. There you go. In the end, we all care about the building up of the community. And I think we all have some important goals and considerations that need to be heard. We'll discuss the plans about the shelter tonight, and I know that the discussion will also extend to other ways to build up the community tonight, and we will continue the conversation from here. So thank you very much for your openness. Is everyone okay with these basic ground rules of respect for a civil conversation? Is this okay?
I think one thing I'd like to say about the ground rules for respect.
Sure.
I think we really understand those, and I think that the time that you have there for our conversations and the questions that we're going to be having, when you set ground rules with people, it becomes like you're talking down to individuals. Give us the opportunity to express ourselves without the parameters of what you're trying to say.
That's fine. I have found...
We'll be respectful.
Yeah.
But again, you got to understand the passion. If you can't feel it right now, you will feel it by the time you leave.
That's okay, and that's why when we have a diversity of people here, if we have a common agreement, I very much want to hear from you, and I want to hear from everyone else. So if we can hear each other, then it makes for a good conversation. So thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Okay. So without further ado, I want to welcome, if you want to come in the room, there's still some places, I'm sorry that we're full, but there's some standing places here. I want everyone to be able to come in and hear the conversation. So, come on in. And so, I'd like to invite forward Mark Ellerbrook from King County to go over the background and the need for the shelter.
Thank you very much, Michael, and thanks to all of you for being here. I really appreciate it. We do have a good turnout, and that's great. Michael mentioned a lot of sort of my opening remarks. One thing that I would add, particularly when we get to the questions and answers and comment section, I realize there's going to be a lot of various opinions. Not all of them are going to be supportive of the concept. As we move through this and you have concerns or questions, if you can think of recommendations that would make this better, we definitely want to hear those so that we can take those into consideration and figure out how we fold those into the shelter operations. So just keep that in mind as we kind of do a quick presentation and move to questions and answers. So again, my name is Mark Ellerbrook. I manage the Housing and Community Development Program for King County Department of Community and Human Services. We're here to talk about the White Center shelter that King County intends to open at the former public health clinic just up the street at 108th and 8th. As Michael mentioned, we collectively in King County with the county executive and the mayor have declared a homeless state of emergency. He listed off the details countywide. I wanted to provide just a little detail of what homelessness looks like in southwest King County and in White Center. So when we did the most recent one-night count, we counted over 300 people who were homeless in southwest King County. Outside of the city of Seattle, that is the largest count area as far as homelessness. We see the greatest prevalence outside of the city of Seattle in southwest King County. Specifically in White Center, our estimate is there are over 100 people living unsheltered outdoors in this community. We certainly hear from folks in the community, from the CSA meetings that Alan Painter runs about the impact of homelessness in the community, whether they be sleeping in green spaces, whether they be sleeping in door fronts or in downtown. We know and hear from you routinely the impact that homelessness has on this community. We also, just from calls to the 211 line, that is sort of the emergency line for people to call if they're having issues like homelessness or a food shortage and things like that. For the zip codes that cover White Center, last year we received over 1,300 calls for homeless assistance in the greater White Center area. So the need in this community, as you all know, is very real. And so with that kind of in mind, and the anecdotes that we receive and sort of the issues that we face, one of the things we also know, and for people who've been able to come up and look, there is no shelter anywhere near White Center for the people who are homeless. The closest shelter, which is a 9-bed shelter for women, is located up in West Seattle at Our Lady of Guadalupe, and that's for nine women. And the next closest shelter is down in Burien, also for women, Hospitality House. So there really are no resources anywhere in the general vicinity to help those people who are struggling and who are sleeping outdoors. And so when we look at how we deliver services throughout King County, one of the things we look at is regionally, where is it that we need services, where is it that we need shelter, and the White Center area is an area where there is a great need and there is not a shelter close by. So that kind of led us, with all of those factors in mind, to try to see where we could provide shelter in this community. As many of you obviously know, the public health clinic, the former public health clinic, has been closed for a number of years and has kind of a longer development plan that we're going to hear about shortly. But kind of in the interim period provides an opportunity where we're going to be able to bring people indoors, get them connected with services, and move them into housing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of what we're doing countywide and in White Center related to shelter. One of the things that we know... Yeah. So one of the things that we know is that historically how we have operated shelter is it has been on an emergency basis, a place where people come in at night, often late at night, sleep, and then have to leave early the next morning. And they're in and out, in and out, in and out every night. And there really isn't an opportunity to connect with those people and connect them to the services they need to ultimately become stabilized and connected to housing. So we recognize this. We actually had several reports issued last week that also reiterated that need, that our shelter system is not necessarily meeting all the needs we can have it do as far as the needs of the homeless. So we are moving to an enhanced shelter model. This is extended hours, case management on site, looking to have meals on site so people can come in, be able to engage with the case manager, address the issues, the underlying issues of their homelessness, and then ultimately become stable, become stably housed, and no longer be residing on the streets here in White Center. We operate a regional shelter system, which means that if anybody were to come to any of our shelters, whether it be in Bellevue or Seattle or Federal Way or in White Center, from any part of the county or even greater, and there was room, we would take those people in. That being said, we intend to do, with the Salvation Army and Sound Mental Health, intensive outreach in the White Center area to bring people who are residing in this community and who are members of this community into the shelter, so that we're going to be alleviating their issues and also sort of the ancillary concerns that all of you have as far as the impact on that community. So that is what we intend to do at the shelter. It's going to operate from 5 o'clock in the evening until 8 o'clock in the morning. As I mentioned, there's going to be meals, and there's going to be case management services available for folks where we can, again, move them to stable housing.
I have a question for you, sir.
So we're going to do question and answers at the end. Thank you. I know, Joseph, that you signed up to do that. I appreciate that. So with that, so there's a sign-up sheet over here, and we're committed to staying until all the questions have been asked. So I appreciate that. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to turn it over to the Salvation Army, who's an experienced shelter operator. They operate a number of shelters, including those downtown in our King County facilities. And so I'm going to introduce Major Smith and Scott Morehouse to talk a little bit about how the Salvation Army operates shelters and how they see this shelter operate.
You've said a lot, why don't you answer questions now?
Answer
the questions now.
Some people need to go home to their family.
I understand. We're going to make this go really quick. And
Really?
then
What does that sign say?
it says
Questions.
and answers at 7:10. So that's about 15 minutes from now. So we're going to kind of move through that. So go ahead. Thanks, Major Smith.
Well, we can make our part real quick. A lot of what we have to say is probably going to be shared again through answering your questions. So we'll keep our introductions brief. My name is Major Smith. I'm a Salvation Army officer. Major just simply means I've been doing this a long time. I've been in the business of providing human services as a Salvation Army officer for 20 years. I've been in the business of transitional housing, shelter, detox, treatment for addictions, a variety of direct services in my experience. And so I come to Seattle in the last year with the title of Director of Social Services. Under that umbrella, we operate a wide variety of services in the Seattle area. Our flagship programs have become, within the last year, our shelter operations. We have, up to this point, been operating what has grown from 50 beds through a seasonal period of cold weather months to now up to 230 beds as most recently. Within the past 18 months, it's expanded to that effect in 3 different locations. And so Scott Morehouse has been the manager of those programs. We've done that successfully without incident. We've done it with great fiscal care and maintained our agreement with our contractors, with the city and the county to stay on budget. We've operated these programs with success in the sense that many people have achieved greater stabilization as a result of being in our shelter programs than when they started. Some people have actually accessed housing directly from our shelters. We've been doing the business of shelter for a long time in the Salvation Army. I think our name, speaks to that quite well. We're happy to speak to our own personal experience here in Seattle and the greater area and our personal management experience, if those are in question, as part of your question and answer period. Scott is simply going to try to describe for you very quickly how a shelter operates, what we've been able to do successfully. I would say
I'm Scott Morehouse. I'm the shelter manager. I'm also a White Center community member. I have kids that go to school here as well. I'm excited about this shelter opportunity, and basically it's going to be a low barrier shelter. And what that means is we meet people as they present. We try to provide a safe place for them to access resources and connect with community providers. I'll keep this pretty short for questions, so.
I thank you. I'd like to invite Stephen Seeley to come forward, talk about future plans. Oh, okay, great.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Daschle. I'm the Executive Director of Southwest Youth and Family Services. We provide behavioral health, education, family support, and youth development services in West Seattle and South King County, Southwest King County. For the last couple of years, a group of community organizations and community residents have been gathering under the umbrella of communities of opportunity. And the idea behind the communities of opportunity is to focus resources on communities of great need that have, where we want to build a greater sense of equity, development, community development, and health outcomes, to improve health outcomes in the neighborhood. And through that process, we got to talking about the use of this facility down here. Southwest has 4 or 5 staff in that building now, doing case management, and our New Futures program director is there. And then we have 2 classrooms up here in this building where we're doing education services for kids who've been kicked out or dropped out of school. we had a vision in the context of our conversations around communities of opportunity of building a community service center that would be able to serve everybody in White Center and in southwest King County with a variety of services. So we're working with the White Center Community Development Association and the White Center Food Bank and Southwest to, as we start thinking about it, a few years down the line, build a community resource center. We're also talking about working with Capitol Hill Housing to provide several units of housing on that space as well. So it'll be, we haven't, still very early in the process. We haven't even done any real visioning yet about how we're going to put the project together. But we are anticipating it'll be a combination of housing and community resources that would support the entire community. It's probably at least 2 or 3, 4 years down the line before we'll be able to get all the resources necessary to construct and put this building together. But our intent is to bring a brand new, beautiful resource to our community. We'll keep you informed as that process continues.
Thank you, Steve. So we're going to proceed now with question and comment. I'd ask the people who've spoken so far to come forward and to stand here and make it easier to respond to questions. And so as you have signed in the list, we're just going to go in order. And I'm going to call your name. We have 2 rotating mics, and I'm going to ask our friends from King County to help pass the mic to people. If I call your name, if you just raise your hand so that we can move the mic to you as quickly as possible. And then I'd ask you to limit your comments to 2 minutes. That allows all of us who have signed in to speak. If you have a question, try to say that within the 2 minutes, and then we'll have the relevant person have a chance to respond. And then if everyone keeps to that, we'll be able to get through very adequately all the comments that are to be made tonight. So the first person is Bobby Beeman. Okay, so we can pass the mic to. I'm going to use this. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Bobby Beeman. I own Sky's Barbershop in the main business district here in White Center. I'm also the president of the Chamber of Commerce. One of my initial questions is, when you guys were having these conversations, where was the business district? I understand that a few of the folks that are sitting out here understood that the business owners were in favor of what you were doing, and I happen to know that my organization didn't find out about this until Wednesday, and the business owners were informed until Friday when my staff distributed an invitation to this event rather than to the Chamber of Commerce mixer, because we find this to be a lot more important to the community. So much so that the residents of White Center that the Chamber of Commerce serves has decided that we are pushing the homeless from the business district into the residential area and find that that is something that we want to do. I have had a resource center on the Chamber's agenda in Stasis since I have taken the presidency of this organization and have not got to meet or speak to any of you. You stand up here and you provide information that can be proven false, and then you want everybody in here to stand next to you and agree with what you're doing. I happen to know that the 300 or 400 folks that you talk about here in White Center, if you got out, as I have over the last week since I found out about this, and had conversations with the people who you seem to want to help, and asked them what they needed, instead of telling them, you would find out that they actually prefer to be on the fringe.
You betcha.
They're not going to use the facilities that you folks are trying to provide to them. And also, I believe I read a post on the blog saying that your shelter program is regional, Therefore, if someone from Bellevue or downtown were to come to White Center and say that they are part of a shelter system there, they would be allowed into White Center, which in my opinion, provides displacement of the already displaced.
Thank you, let's, give.
Thank you for your comments. I had also said that we operate a regional system here earlier in the presentation, which is true. And people, if the shelter is not full and present from a different location, they certainly can come in and stay, which is true if they were from Seattle and went to the Bellevue shelter. And the other piece that I commented on is that we intend to do, both with Salvation Army and Sound Mental Health, intensive outreach to the folks who are residing here in homeless in White Center. One of the things we know is that when we do outreach to those folks, they may not come into a shelter the first time or the second time, but if we continue to connect with them over time, they do come in eventually to the shelter. We're able to build a relationship. The outreach workers are able to build a relationship and bring them in and ultimately help address the issues that they have. So that's our plan for how we're going to connect with the people who reside in this community and be able to, hopefully through outreach and through the services provided in the ANT shelter, be able to address those needs. So thank you for your comment.
You're not going to address the direct question as to why did you represent the White Center Business District when none of you bothered to come into the business district and have a conversation with us?
So I guess I have to, don't exactly understand representing the business. So I just don't understand the question. So did I say something?
That's a parameter, right? Yes, I don't want to go into.
You don't understand the direct question. Why did you represent the business district as supporting what you're doing without coming into the business district and having a conversation with the business owners so that we could tell you what we know needs to happen, rather than what you think you're doing is right?
So I think what I said, appreciate the comment, and I think what we've heard from the community, business owners and others, in a variety of different meetings, not just over the last couple of weeks.
Please allow Mr. Ellerbrook to respond.
That say truthful facts.
About your plans until Wednesday of last week. The business owners did not get until Friday of last week. By the residents of this community as perpetuating displacement of homeless folks from our doorstep to theirs.
Okay, I understand now.
So I would like you to directly answer my question, Sir Politician, and tell me why you have not come to the business folks and represented yourself so that we could represent ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
So I apologize for that not happening. And we did outreach to a number of folks, including people, residents within 500 feet of the location. And
That's to the next street over. 500 feet isn't like to the left.
Let's allow him to respond.
November 1st, we have a number of weeks to help.
Okay.
My brothers, everybody I know goes to schools around here. You want to bring in all these homeless people and then.
Let's allow him to respond. The point was made earlier. Give him a chance to respond. We agreed we're going to have questions and allow him to respond, and then we're going to proceed to the other people who have signed up to speak.
So as I said, I apologize if you were put in a poor position because of the fact that we did not get sufficient outreach to you. We have 6 weeks before the shelters plan to be open. We hope to work with the business district and the community to look at how we can open this shelter and what are recommendations we can make to improve how it may operate.
Don't open the shelter.
Joseph Benavides, let's allow the speaker to speak. Go ahead.
So I speak really well up front. You know what?
You all owe this conversation. I've lived here for 50 years on that block. Okay, triangular parking, triangular piece of property right adjacent to the bank, food bank, big 6-foot fence around it. The fence is there for a reason. Okay. They are planning this in the most dangerous, uncontrolled intersection in White Center, probably King County. Fatalities, pedestrian accidents, pedestrian motor vehicle, major, uncontrolled. They come out and mark the crosswalks. Very good, kids, get across the street. How about it? Those poor kids are dancing, trying to get through that parking lot, through that intersection, every day. Now they want to bring people in. Their low-level intake is, from what I understand, no background searches, right? Sex offenders, child molesters, rapists, felons, all of the above. Guess what, folks? They're coming. Hold on, they're coming. They're coming.
Let's,
Hold on,
is
let me
there?
speak. Let me speak. I like to.
They'll have to have a chance to respond.
Okay, got it. Let me speak. So, you write it down. Great question. Listen, hold on, listen, folks. Let's keep it cool. Okay. So, major intersection for 4 schools: Cascade, Evergreen, Mount View, White Center Heights. So they're going to release them at the same time the kids are coming in and out. It's going to be an overnight shelter only, but listen to this. They're not going to upgrade the facilities because they're fast-tracking the permit process. It started November 15th, or November 2015, correct? The planning.
Watch it online.
Well, that's what it says, and that's what you had in the conversation. Me and Pat Thompson were on the phone with you, and upstairs in a conference call, and I talked to Valerie Kendall and yourself. November 15th, or November 2015 is when they started planning. Silly Savusa was in the meeting, and they said this was going to happen November 1st. Says you need to reach out and talk to the community. So that's why we're having this meeting today. 2 months before they open the doors. Okay? No traffic study. No Department of Transportation traffic study. Nothing put in place. Nothing. The intake, they're missing. Listen to this. We're going to help them. We care about these people. We really do. They're not going to upgrade the plumbing. There's no showers in that facility. No showers, folks. It's going to be sponge baths and floor mats. Okay?
We need to wrap up.
No showers. Okay, no
Please wrap up your
showers.
point.
Okay? So what I'm saying is this. We are not going to stand for this to come into place. And if we have to put a human barrier in front of that place, we're going to do it. And I ask each and every one of you. Yourself, Mrs. Kendall, you have to go home tonight in Edmonds, in West Seattle. And if we were to take one of these motorhomes and a bag of garbage and throw it in your yard, you would be speaking loud and clear. Okay, we don't have that opportunity because we weren't given that opportunity, but now we have it. And we will pound you with emails. We will inundate King County. We'll inundate Dow Constantine. And I want all of you to get on the email chain. You will see us on the internet. Come and join us. Me and Bobby Beeman, Silly Savusa, Pat Thompson, everybody, because we're not going to have this. You have a facility downtown in White Center where they come and get their paychecks every day, and they drink it up, and then they go panhandle for the rest, and then they go forward. Okay? There's your answer. No planning. It's a check the box. Look at Dow Constantine. Oh, God. West Seattle, I'm loving this. It's beautiful.
Okay, I think
Thank you.
you made your point. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
We'll get you on Facebook. It's What If on White Center.
What if
on White Center? How's it go?
I have
You know me from
I
White Center.
have Gus, Marianne, Pappas. Okay.
Our family has been in this community for over a century, and this is totally unacceptable. We have transients or homeless going by our property all the time, throwing garbage, they're sleeping, they're going on our private property. They started a fire, an arson fire on our property that could have spread to our house, and we could have bbeen burnt to death. And we don't have enough officers. Are you going to have, how many more officers are you going to have on the road to help us, to protect us? Are you going to bring another 20, 30 in?
Background checks for any of these people, and we know what's gonna happen. You say they're gonna sit there and they're gonna sleep, and then they're gonna leave at 8 o'clock. They're not gonna leave at 8 o'clock in the morning. They're gonna be all over.
And they're gonna come over to our house and do more garbage, do more drugs. We're sick and tired of it. Send them to Bellevue, send them to Kirkland. Why do we have to get all the crap?
Well, I I think there may be a question about what happens to the folks during the day and the value, or a question about a shelter versus on unorganized encampments or unorganized settings versus a shelter, where the shelter provides some advantages to help people on their
That's
way.
not his interpretation. That wasn't his interpretation. That wasn't his interpretation. That's your opinion.
So, in answer to the question to how many additional officers, there will not be any additional officers.
Thank you. We only have two now.
A couple of the questions or points, observations you made as far as what's going to happen in the morning at 8 o'clock, and as you comment, there may be those who loiter or hang around. I think one potential recommendation or suggestion that folks have is, could we extend the hours so that there is a place for those people to go and not simply be sort of exited on the street at 8
It's every Friday.
So I think, you actually also commented on a number of things as far as issues that you're seeing with homelessness, people throwing trash, and other concerns along those lines. Again, I think these are things we've heard for a long time from this community. And again, the point of this shelter is to try to bring these folks indoors and address the addiction issues or the other substance use issues, mental health issues, so that we can get them connected to services, into housing, and off of the streets. So that is the plan.
shelter there, the garbage is gonna go away magically.
Yeah.
And needles are gonna go away.
During the day when you don't have them in there.
Okay, the next person is Hillary Coleman.
Hi, sorry, I wasn't expecting to be so soon. So my name's Hillary Coleman, and I work for the Seattle King County Coalition on Homelessness. And I want to thank you all for opening this space and for coming out. I know that some people in this room are very in support of this, and I know that there's a lot of questions. And this is a thing that we all, it's important for people to talk through and talk through communities. We have helped open a number of shelters in the greater Seattle and King County area throughout the coalition's history, and really want to call back to the fact that we have people staying outside, and a lot of the issues that people are raising is that there are people in our community that don't have a place to go. And so this is going to open 70 beds for people to go. It's going to provide people meals, so they're going to have a little more stability, and hopefully, like Mark was talking about, this means that people can work out. If they have a meal in the morning and the evening, they're going to have more time to work on their jobs. Lots of people that are living outside do have jobs and need somewhere safe to stay inside so that they continue to maintain those jobs and go to work. I really want to call attention to the fact that we want to make sure that we're really realizing that people who are living outside are human beings just like the rest of us. We're all people, and we're all citizens of these neighborhoods. Yes, it's a regional access point, and yes, there are people that live outside.
Please allow the speaker to speak. If we have mutual respect in the conversation, we can then hear each other. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to just call attention also to the fact that we need to make sure that we're not equating issues of drugs and alcohol only to homelessness. That happens in other parts of our community, and people who are living outside, unfortunately, we might see it more, but that happens inside of our houses too. And so I want to make sure that we're really just remembering that we are talking about people that are living here and people that might have lived in your community before and now can't live in their houses anymore because the rent has gone up, people have lost jobs. But I really just want to bring it back to the fact that there are community members who are living outside and really need somewhere safe inside to stay.
Well, do you live in White Seattle?
Where do you live?
The next name on the list is Allison Isinger. Okay, the next name on the list is Elaine Quinn.
My name's Elaine, excuse me. My name's Elaine Quinn. I live at Arrowhead Gardens, which is just down the road a piece, the Shag community. Before I start with saying the food bank comes to us 4 afternoons a month. We appreciate it. It's great. I have been interested in the homeless situation for many, many years, some of it for personal reasons. But I also, living where I am, very well, and all the people who live there, we have 500 to 600 senior citizens and people with disabilities who live there. We have 2 encampments right next door. We are comfortable with those encampments, and the fact that your sheriff, when I say your sheriff as opposed to the police department of Seattle, both of them run through the property. We've never had an incident. All the bus terminals are there, so if you are homeless and don't have wheels, and you want to come to one of these encampments, you have to take the bus or walk. The other thing about that is, when you talk about drugs and all, the one as you proceed towards Burien that's on the right-hand side here, I'm sorry, I talk with my hands. You will note that the people who are living there have a sign there which says no drugs allowed. They have a fence, it looks like a campsite that you would put up in a park, the way they have laid it out. The president of our association, we have a tenants association, went over there and visited. She had to go with the policeman because they were going to let a stranger in. And he said, don't worry, she's okay. So the policeman in this area is very protective of these people, very protective of us. That's number one. Number two is, because I've been interested in all of this, I had seen in the newspaper there was going to be readings this past Monday night at one of the public library branches. So I went and I listened. And this is a book called Original Voices, Homeless and Formerly Homeless Women's Writings. The people whose writings are in this book are from Mary's Place. Mary's Place is the model that they're talking about here. It is a shelter overnight, and it is open during the day to provide the services, to help these people, whatever their needs are, to get their lives back together again. And I think it's important that you not lump all people that are homeless as being some kind of atrocity. I'm going to end this with, there's a teeny tiny poem at the end. It says, for so long I did not have a choice. Trampled and broken, I was silenced. Like so many of us, it may seem a small thing, but you heard. I feel so grateful. From my depths, I thank you. And that thank you that goes to the model they're going to bring here.
The next person on the list is Suzanne Nguyen. Suzanne Nguyen.
It's okay if I stand here? I speak as a mom of 2, and also I speak for some that couldn't come here tonight, that are mothers as well of the community, and I just live up here in a small community that's mixture of low income and mixture of rents and homeowners. You know, and I've also lived here for most of my life, and there's a lot of crimes that go on around here, and there's people that go around and make it harder for others. And I'm not the one to judge people that are homeless, but it is kind of unexpected. And we kind of got this at the last minute. And I'm kind of curious to know that, you know, you say that there's open space here. There is a school that's been boarded up for many years, and there's enough room up there. That's away from all this convenience of a lot of schools and children that walk to school and walk home. Can you answer that question? Why wasn't that a space for them?
Okay, thank you.
So I think the question is, how do we decide on this facility and not look at the church or the school or an alternate location? This, I think the reasons we've discussed, is a county-owned facility. It's one that lays out really well for a shelter. As Salvation Army says, it's got rooms for couples. It's got an open space that serves well for having people, the singles, as well as facility and spaces for case management. So when we look at this, it is a use that lays out well in this place, as well as the fact that this is an interim use that we have for a facility that is eventually going to be, as Steve Daschle talked about, sort of envisioned and built out. And so this is a temporary use in a county facility that's vacant at the moment. And so that was the decision process by which we came to looking at this facility.
The next name on the list is Amy Borenkamp.
My name is Amy, and I'm a building owner in White Center. My husband has also been a business owner in White Center for more than 15 years. And there is no doubt that there's a problem here, and there needs to be something to happen. I don't have suggestions for that. What I want to comment to is I clean my parking lot almost every day, and I'm picking up personal belongings, empty bottles, I'm cleaning up feces, I'm cleaning up needles, I'm scrubbing my building and my sidewalk from urine on a daily basis, painting out graffiti, you name it. What I'm concerned about with this facility, when I read the information, is it says there will be no limit on nights that people can stay in this shelter. They're getting dinner, a place to stay, and breakfast. And you're hoping they utilize the case management you're trying to connect them with. But what incentive are we giving them when we're providing all of that? It sounds to me like it's a recipe for enabling, for them to maybe have to spend 8 to 5 outside to either, and I apologize, I don't mean to lump this population in with going to get loaded and shoot up again, stumble back into the shelter. But honestly, is there no, this should be a give and take. It sounds like it's take. Can they not participate in the community that's trying to help them and support them? For example, with unemployment, you have to show proof that you are actively seeking work, that you are trying to change your circumstances. This does nothing for that or in that vein. I understand there are people who are not mentally able to participate in society, and those I'm sure are the ones you're trying to reach the most. But, I mean, can you speak to that? How, you can't force them to participate in your services. You're providing van transportation services. This is meals, a bed, driving around.
Okay,
What are they gonna change? How are they gonna change?
thank you.
So in answer to your question, what we know is that if you provide a shelter with barriers, saying you need to be actively working on employment or you need to be sober, you don't end up with people coming indoors. If you have a low barrier shelter where people are able to come in and we can engage with them with case management, we have success getting those people to address the exact issues that you described and the ones that you're cleaning up after on your property, and able to move them into housing. I'm going to ask Scott to talk a little bit about the impact that we had downtown when we added case management services to the shelter, how we were able to start housing folks.
So our housing outcomes increased. Our housing outcomes in our downtown shelters increased by 7%, just by adding part-time case management. We're seeing that people are engaging.
Did you say 7%? Like
Yes.
single digit 7?
So that's increased by, that's increased by 7%. We're talking about 230 homeless people that have gotten housing directly from a shelter, not other services, just direct to housing. So we can identify their needs and direct them to those services. So if that shelter is not a good fit for them, we can find a better fit by connecting with them.
So, prior to this model, this extended enhanced shelter model, it was a revolving door. It was emergency, it was all about weather. It was about keeping people from freezing to death on the street. And that doesn't solve anything except for during the cold weather season and keep some people safe. So, what we're suggesting to you is that when you start to provide a additional resources and extend the hours where people can then begin to be engageable, that they will respond and that they do respond. Not everybody responds, but those who do, we've seen them increase their ability to stabilize and access other services. And it's a deterrent to the kinds of things that the community otherwise faces without that, on a higher degree. So it's not the end all to be all. It's not going to eliminate, the problems that you're describing. We get that, and we don't promise that. But we do suggest to you that intervention of this type leads to a decrease, and it certainly provides the opportunity for those individuals to make change, and we can influence that. We have relationship in this community already. The Salvation Army has a location in White Center where we can engage in relationship with this proposed shelter in such a way that, building relationship, I think, is a big part of engaging somebody and stabilizing them in the services that they need to be encouraged to access.
Okay, our next speaker is Tom. Yep, next speaker.
What does that mean, move into houses? Because that doesn't tell me that the person got on their feet, they have a job. Did they just move into something else that's provided free for them and another, what do you mean?
Yeah, so I think there's a variety of ultimately housing outcomes for folks. We have, without getting into all the different types, we have a variety of housing that meets people's needs. Some people need sort of ongoing, long-term services. And so they move into something called permanent supportive housing, where they're able to get those services and be stabilized. Some folks simply need a place where they can go and do their job from. They need to come indoors. They have what's called rapid rehousing. We're able to talk to them, engage with them in case management, quickly move them into housing. And what we know is that those folks who enter housing, by and large, retain that housing over the very long term. So there isn't a one housing answer for every person, but that's part of the case management process, is determining, helping them try to determine their root causes, and also then moving into the right and the most appropriate form of housing.
Okay, the next person, let's allow them.
We can agree that the 7% you just talked about doesn't mean that those people actually got going on their own.
And that's only 16 people per year?
We'll try to get to that point a little later on. Thank you. The next speaker is Tanya Powers.
Hi there, my name is Tanya Powers, and I want to say that I do support well thought out initiatives that support homeless folks. I have personal experience being homeless, and what I hear from this model doesn't really sound like a good model. Some of the concerns that I have include security around the park, and so knowing that folks are going to go out into the parks when the shelter closes at 8 a.m. That's a huge concern with only 2 King County sheriffs. I happened to work on Capitol Hill for a long time. Got to see the experiences that happened up at Cal Anderson Park with the East Precinct 2 blocks away. So I don't think that we have the resources to provide public safety with the shelter at this location. I also have concerns about a faith-based model being used to support homeless folks. I'm more in support of models that aren't faith-based. So models like Recovery Cafe that are based, like the Recovery Cafe in Seattle, and it's based on daytime hours, with really supporting folks into recovery.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're not going to let him even answer that?
Well, if you'd like to, that's fine. I'm conscious of the number of speakers here, but sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I can certainly appreciate your comment about the faith-based program, but I just want to make sure you understand correctly. I mean, a faith-based organization is a lot different than presenting a faith-based program. We provide services to the homeless. We provide human services without discrimination, and it's not. While we are a faith-based organization, these are not faith-based programs in the way I think that here.
So is faith going to keep us from being raped or our kids being molested?
All
You
right.
better start praying
Susan
now.
McEliley?
Forgive me for reading this. It'll get done faster. So, as far as Camp Second Chance on Myers Way, I stopped down there and talked to their leader.
Speak right into the microphone, it helps.
Camp Second Chance on Myers Way, I stopped there and talked to them, and, I asked what they thought their solution would be, and the gentleman I talked to said that some of them there already have jobs, they just can't afford housing in Seattle. So that's an answer from that drug-free group that's down there. I did say, well, at least you're not doing drugs here, and I got this deer in the headlights look, so I'm not so sure. Okay, so but what I wanted to really address was what I believe is the fear of homelessness and the drug addiction. Possibly offer a possible solution or to plant a seed. My experience with addiction is knowing a couple addicts on the methadone program, along with the fact that we've had drug dealing squatters occupying a home across the street from our house for the last 9 months. And we live close to Myers Way, where I've seen an increase in homeless occupation over the last couple of years, and it exploded this summer. I realize not all homeless people are addicts, but I would be willing to make a bet that many people remain homeless because of their addiction to opioids, and that they are unable to get proper past the withdrawal process and detoxification of their tissues. What is being used currently are the methadone clinics that are provided, and some other chemicals, and some newly proposed implants are being brought forward. But all of these chemicals are addictive and keep these poor souls trapped in a body addicted to substances and coming back over and over, not to mention the damaging side effects to the brain and body. So currently, if you want to go through the withdrawal process and get off drugs at a clinic or with a doctor, it costs $6,000 to $30,000, and obviously unaffordable to homeless people. A possible solution. I did some research and I did find a product that's a herbal-based product, and it's to help ease with the symptoms of withdrawal during detoxing, and it's all natural and the cost of $89.
Okay.
It's a one-time use product.
What's it called?
Okay.
It's
Can we
called
have a-
withdrawalease.com. Has it been 2 minutes?
Yes, it has.
Okay, well, I just want to add one more thing. So if maybe someone in the county, city could figure out a way to help the people actually go through the detoxification without feeling the need to go back to the drugs, this would help with that solution.
Thank you. Any of you like to respond to that? Okay, Bill Tracy?
Bill Tracy, most of you know me as Commissioner of Southwest Urban Sewer District. That has nothing to do with this, however. What I'm looking at, and as Bob would say, communications is terrible, especially from King County. So given that King County is going to do what King County wants to do, regardless of the protests, what is it exactly that is going to happen to us within 6 weeks, so that we know exactly what to go to Joe McDermott and complain about?
Good question. Yeah.
That's right.
So to restate the question, so what is going to happen over the next 6 weeks that you can go and complain about? So we are going through the permitting process for a change of use, building use, for a shelter. And that process is underway as we speak. That takes several weeks. There also are improvements being made to the building to anticipate the use as the shelter. So there are upgrades to the fire panel, there are upgrades to the facility generally to have it be able to be managed as a shelter. So that's kind of what's going on over the next 6 weeks. I think the other piece that we're taking notes on, and we've got them, is any sort of recommendations and takeaways we get from this discussion. They can talk about the service plan for this facility. There were comments about the intersection there, and that is a county-controlled intersection, county-controlled roads. So this is the first that DCHS has heard about that issue, and we're welcome and happy to go back to the roads department and see if there's a way that we can assist in that issue. So those are the kinds of things that we intend to do. As we kind of mentioned at the beginning, we will be taking all of these notes and making them available on our website. We'll be taking the Q&A and making those available on our website and providing updates at that location so you can track that. And then obviously getting in touch with your county representative is completely appropriate in this case.
One question.
Next speaker is Norma Addis.
I just have one question.
I think out of respect, people are waiting and they really want to
I'll
speak,
wait,
so
I'll wait.
I know your voice is very important. Thank you.
Very important.
Thank you. My name is Norma. I have been in the human services area for over 10 years. My background is in fundraising, and so I'm not unfamiliar. I have been a part of One Count. I've been out there in the streets counting. I have also participated with the King County Housing Authority on August the 2nd as part of this community because I, as many of my colleagues here, am a homeowner in Ceola Gardens. So for many of you who might know, we are a mixed income and use community. Before many of the houses were built, we encountered some of the homeless who would come in and take advantage of a little safe haven that was down there. And many times we found individuals who were opioid users and who were asleep on the empty lots. One of my biggest concerns, because having been familiar with All Home and Home First, is centralized entry. And I know that that's a huge problem. I have experienced it and recognize that even in the facilities that I work with, these individuals have not been able to find anything for over 24 months. And that is old data. So if and who will be the Salvation Army and anyone else working with nonprofits in the area to affect that data so that we don't continue to have these individuals unable to access services we're going to have the same people coming here 2 years or more.
Thank you.
The other question that I have,
Please wrap up.
okay, is how else is the county going to help with the MIDD? I know that they have the lowest amount of budgets for mental and unstable and drug programs. So how is that going to be addressed?
Thank you.
So I think on the second question, the mental illness drug dependency levy, that is up for renewal and being discussed right now. That is a vital resource that we use in helping folks partially on the homeless issue. And there are specific objectives laid out in the mid-renewal that talk specifically about how we look at opioid addiction, how we look at other substance use issues, and strategies in that plan that's being considered by the council right now for renewal that will be able to directly kind of assist in this area. So I think that's the second question. And I'm sorry, the first question was?
What are the other besides Salvation Army? Who are the other nonprofit organizations that you have communicated with?
So the other key partner that's going to be working with the Salvation Army that already is present in this community and does the outreach is Sound Mental Health. They focus their outreach to the homeless community here in White Center and in Southwest King County, and they will continue to be a key component of the way that we do the enhanced shelter and the outreach here. And so they have success in, again, kind of as we've described, connecting with folks one time, 2 times, multiple times, and ultimately having success bringing them in and getting them services. In this case, it would be at the White Center shelter, and then moving them to housing. As you point out, housing is expensive in this community. One of the things that we learned from a couple of reports that were released last week is really One of the key interventions that we are using, and we are only going to expand using, is something called rapid rehousing in this community. It's a way where we can get people into housing quickly, as I mentioned, and for less cost than some of the ways that we've done it historically. What we do know from the data, both local and nationally, is if we get people into housing, even if they pay more than traditionally acceptable in income, they are successful in remaining in their housing. And that is national level data that tells us that.
So are those the only two nonprofits, that's it?
That are connected specifically to this facility. Those are the two lead nonprofits. Then there will be the connections to the housing through that we do through coordinated entry, which I think is what maybe you were talking about, the coordinated assessment piece. So we have coordinated entry that we're working on. We do it the way this is a centralized assessment, an intake system throughout the county. People are assessed. People who are experiencing homelessness are assessed, and then based on that, sort of determine their level of need, whether it be permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, diversion services, and then are managed that way. So if somebody presents at the shelter, they will be able to get an assessment at the shelter, and then that assessment is fed through the coordinated entry system where we're able to make a referral to housing, and that is managed by the county.
Thank you. All right, next person, Owen Sally.
Hey, my name is Owen Salee. I have lived in White Center since about 1999. My wife and my son often go for walks in our neighborhood, and we'll walk through the park, etc. And I'm excited for this. I think this is a good opportunity. One thing I want to, let me try to separate what I've been hearing. I think there is a lot of concern in the audience from people that feel like we're not informed. That happens a lot in White Center. I think that happens. So maybe that is a piece we need to address. But the other thing I want to go back to, and then I will sit down, is the numbers that we heard at the beginning, that there are 300 some people unsheltered in King County, in southwest King County, including White Center. The need is already here. And what I believe at the heart of this proposal, however it's getting communicated, at the heart of this, I believe we've got an opportunity to provide people a safe way to be safe, to make some better choices. There are people that are stuck because of their situation. There are people that are whatever. I know that when I'm rested and fed a little bit, I'm able to think about things like where I'm going to go to work and what I'm going to do. So if you live here as a resident, I would encourage us to see, can we look past the I wish I had known. I think that's a valid issue, but I'd also really like us to say we need to care about the people that we see in our community that will be homeless or can be homeless in a place that might provide some support and services and an opportunity for transition.
The next speaker is Harry McCartney.
Never had a problem, property-wise or anything-wise, until Victory Outreach started a rehab place behind my current home. Got broken into twice, had recent issues after they changed ownership of it, but it's still Victory Outreach. I'm not surprised, Mr. Ramus, that more people are here than you expected. Again, we're already hearing that this has not been communicated at all very well. We started this a year ago process, doing changes already. Hope you have the building permit. Where's the proposed land change? I didn't know this was here when I looked at the brochure that I got, because I'm used to being Hicks Lake, Lakewood Park. I really did not know the name of the change. I wondered who else did. This is an enhanced shelter, which, according to a conversation between Tracy Record and Mark Ellerbrook, that means no screening of occupants. So if somebody's going to wake up and go to work, how would anybody know? I got that question. But it makes it an unsafe proposal both for other occupants of this, what goes into there. People can show up drunk, stoned, doesn't matter. They're still going to be admitted. What about the people in there that are actually trying to get ahead? This would actually benefit. You're making their lives more dangerous and community, because these people are not going to leave the neighborhood. What I haven't read, this is not about family homeless situation. This is about individuals that may or may not want to actually get help. But no one under 18 is allowed into these buildings. It's not a family thing. This is going to be most likely, as during
an interview that, this is for existing felons or drug users looking to take advantage of this thing. I also don't want to see people get busted from Bellevue. You guys are all optimistic. This is a White Center problem. No, it's not. I already mentioned this is a regional thing. These people will not be local people that we're helping. These people can come from anywhere, and we have no idea where they're coming from. And please hold your 30-second sign. Some people that were optimistic here didn't get that. And I'd like to continue on if I could.
I'd like you, if you could just summarize your comment. Go
We've
ahead.
got 40 towers in this area. This is the main thoroughfare. It's already been pointed out, this is a dangerous intersection. I don't want to have people living under my trees, squatting in other people's yards, having their van parked out front of my house, because there's nothing I can do about that as a homeowner. I have security issues that's already been asked and not answered sufficiently. This does not ensure safety or well-being of the potential occupants, the neighborhood. It hurts the neighborhood, makes it more prone to crime, drugs, and problems in the general area. It's not a safe proposal. It's not thought out. You guys are shoving it down our throats. And what's fair about this? You guys are all optimistic. You guys are all optimistic about what you're proposing. You all say really great things how this can really help. This is not the right solution.
Can you answer
Thank you,
his
Eric.
family's
Thank you.
question? Can you answer why families are
Thank
not
you.
allowed in there? Yeah, why not? Let's take people that have children that are homeless into shelters. Why not help kids?
Let's allow them to respond. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a good question about why the focus on single adults and couples. So that is the area that we see the greatest need, and it's also the area where we have the fewest resources. So one of the things that we're trying to do with this shelter is one of the reasons we don't get people coming in to shelters because they don't want to leave their partner. They don't want to come in without their couples. And so we're trying to alleviate that specific situation in this case by providing space for people to come in that are couples. So that's why we focus the shelter the way we have.
What if they have
So
kids?
next speaker is Cheryl Cornelius. Cheryl Cornelius? Is that? Okay, great. Thank you.
So I think the general consensus that I'm getting here is that we're not opposed to finding a solution for homeless. We're not opposed of being part of the conversation. What's pissed us off beyond belief is that we are now, just now, having a chance to talk about it. And we are being told, that it is opening on November 1st without us having any consideration in the conversation to come up with a solution, to be a part of that solution. We're not saying that homeless people are the worst of the worst, but 60% do have alcohol problems, do have drug problems, do have mental issues that they're not taking the medications for. We want to find them help, but we're not being allowed to be a part of the conversation. I have a question for you. Did you talk to the 800 students' parents that are at Mountain View? Did you bring them in to this conversation at any point? The answer is no. I have a daughter.
They still don't know. Or the school.
I have a daughter that's going to Mountain View. I have a daughter that's going to Mountain View. I see kids walking, second grade kids walking up and down. High school students are walking at that exact time that you are saying, we're going to let them go out. They don't leave this area. They will stay right in that area. The intake process that you guys are saying, without asking any questions, do they have are they a sex offender? Are they allowed within any area near a school? You're not going to know that.
They don't care.
You have not respected this community or to find a solution. That's what you made us pissed off beyond belief.
to the comment or question, Gwen and Toby Woodruff?
No response.
Answer the question.
I think there was a. You want to respond? Go ahead.
This is in New York.
I invited them to respond.
out of here.
I understand. Okay.
So we've done outreach to the schools, I've talked to the
Please allow him to respond.
I contacted Highline Public School. Today, because I was so concerned about this. I have not been able to sleep for nights.
Yeah.
I
Thank you,
contacted
Dee.
the person in charge of security for all of the Highline schools. He did not know about it.
Take the homeless shelter. Yeah, take it with you.
To your neighborhood. The kids walk up and down the street. This is the schools.
These are not
say
role
have-
models.
They have
These are not
a
role
map.
models. We want our
A
kids to be
map
watching.
For the safe path for the children to walk.
Right,
That's
right.
where they're supposed to go.
You people
In
up
this
front
area-
you don't have the authority to make
In
these
this
decisions.
area.
You're telling us
Get
you're gonna do it no matter what we say, right?
Get
out!
You're gonna do it no matter what we say.
And don't propose this crap.
The people coming from White Center, Google it. Google Map it. When you come from White Center, you put on to where they want to put this, and you put walk. They go right past Mount View Elementary. A safe walking path that our children in our community are supposed to go down.
And quit telling us that you talk to the community because you have a business district that has said you did not talk to them.
So-
You are now telling me a
So-
parent at Mountain View who did not get any communication, because if you would have gone to Highline School District and said, you know what? Can we have a meeting at the school? Can we give information to our parents so they can know exactly what's happening? We did bring elementary school.
Thank you.
Lie to us.
Okay, Gwen and Toby Woodruff,
I
did they
just have a quick
get a
question.
chance?
Just a quick question.
Use the mic, please, with the mic.
Hi, thank you. Can the panel talk about long-term funding plan for the project?
No, we don't want it here, so
So the question's on,
Answer about going to the schools, because you know what, don't tell us that you went to these schools and said, and talked to the parents, because you have not. So
and
how,
that's not what I
how
said.
did you
I
do it?
contacted the
You said we
principals. No,
talked
I
to
said
the
I
principals.
contacted them.
Well,
we'll call the principal about you.
Nobody talked to me.
Please
I was
allow-
talking to the parents. Nobody talked to me about it. I have to do my own outreach. Because nobody told me about this meeting.
Please allow him to respond now. Now the point's been made very clearly.
Notified from the school district about this one. Nobody.
Yeah, and don't say the principal. You know what? You need to talk to the parents, not the principal.
Okay.
You need to talk to the community.
In this specific case, I spoke with the principal, I talked to Anne Weiss, as one of the principals, she and I talked last week. The purpose of this meeting is exactly to accomplish what you're asking, the notification, that's why we're here to hear about it.
You're just gonna do it anyway, right?
You didn't bring us
It won't
into
matter
the
what we say.
conversation.
Guess what?
You're notifying us and telling us this is gonna happen. You're not notifying us saying we're
We will
proposing
not
this
let
to
it
the
happen.
community.
It will not happen.
That's what I'm pissed off.
Allow him to respond now.
So what we need
You made your point. Thank you.
GoFundMe page for an attorney.
You made it very clear. Allow him to respond.
GoFundMe for an attorney. We're gonna fund an attorney and we're gonna put it on Dow Constant's desk.
The other people who want to speak also
I think
should have a chance
we're gonna
to
need
speak
more,
as
we're gonna be here till midnight, folks, or else we're gonna call county executive in here and bring him in to
So,
bail you out.
Next, Dean Peliquin. Okay, funding question, go ahead.
So there was a question about the funding for the shelter, and we have the shelter, funding shelter for this year and into 2017 planned out, and then we're looking to the budget process to receive the remaining of the funding. It's going to come in part from the state funds that we get, Consolidated Homeless Grant, and some of the other local dollars that we use to provide shelter kind of throughout the county. So that's the
Okay, Dean Pelican, please.
Hello, my name's Dean. I've lived in White Center since 2003. I'm glad to consider it my home. And I think you guys have done a pretty poor job of getting across to the community, kind of outreach. And I hope that you're trying to figure out some better way to work with the businesses and with the CDA and these other organizations, these other schools in the area. Otherwise, I don't see that this is going to be a possibility in the way that you have it planned right now. But that being said, these people who need the support and need the services that are going to be offered at this place are part of our community. They already are here, and I feel like there is probably a great amount of evidence to show that these types of services are successful. So I'd like for the Salvation Army folks to explain maybe some of the success stories that you've had in different locations with this type of a homeless shelter.
Was that a question?
7%
success.
Well, I'm willing to speak on specific stories as the manager. The truth is, the people that you come into contact with who access shelter and who walk away as a success story, I wish we could tell you that those numbers are huge. I wish we could tell you that, 50% of the people that come in walk out, and aren't homeless the next day. But we know that that's not really possible. What we are committed to is intervention. What we are committed to is trying to find resources for people and committing to helping them, coming alongside them in this almost impossible journey. But if we don't do it, who will? Because they are here
Ask Al Constantine.
and, I feel your pain about this process that is happening in your neighborhood. To go through what you're going through now unaddressed is the alternative. And I'm not sure if that's public opinion to prefer that over a shelter that might provide some answers.
Is there gonna be people there after hours when we have the problems of our kids walking the streets? Or is it a 9-to-5 job for you guys?
Oh, no, it's not.
So if there are gonna be social workers there, what's the resolution?
Yes, ma'am.
And then have park police and
So the shelter is designed, and there will be at least 2 people there at any time it is occupied, and
2 to 70
three
ratio.
people there when people come in the morning or in the evening, and when they depart in the morning. There also is going to be case management services provided during the time the shelter is operating. So there will be people at that location. There will be phone numbers available if you have a problem, if somebody, you need to make a phone call. There will be a 24-hour possibility of getting in touch with somebody during that time. So
Is there gonna be nurses to help them shoot up? That's
so
a
there
serious
will
question.
be, the shelter will be fully staffed to answer your question, and there will be people available to address community concerns.
Answer the question.
So the time is 8 o'clock, and I ask your permission to extend the meeting so that everyone has a chance to speak. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, great. We have many more speakers, so let's continue on. John Wells. John Wells.
My name is John Wells. I live right down the street on 10th. I want to tell you a little problem I had with King County and some homeless encampments right behind my house. I had to put up another fence just to keep the homeless from crossing over to my area. Where I live, it seems to be an issue between King County Police, Seattle Police, Burien, and CTAC. It's stupid. So if I can't even get a hold of them now,
Yeah, you can.
and it took me 6 months before I finally got somebody in King County that actually listened to me. Not to say that homeless isn't an issue. God bless you, Salvation Army. I think you guys are confusing what our problem is. It doesn't have to do with the fact that we have a homeless issue.
Our problem is
It
we
has
have
to
too
do
many
with
here
where-
now already.
You know, I would say that real quick for my wife, because she wants to say something real quick, right?
The problem is that when you have got children in this area, it's location, 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 location.
Thank you.
All night long. And the only thing you're gonna get out of the mothers is location, location, location. When we call the cops every single night because there's people out back, couples out back, having sex, swearing, cussing, leaving needles, leaving condoms, and things like that in the backyard, and we can't even have our grandchildren play in our home, in our backyard. What are you gonna do to protect the children when I can no longer use the park because I'm gonna have to be fearful that my grandchildren will not be able to go on the swing set because all these people are now released into the community. So not only are we not taking care of, God bless the homeless, I wish I could give a home to every single one of them. But there are other locations you could have chosen besides the community. The complaint is location. And the unfairness of the fact, we might as well be the third freaking runway here. We are not given any warning, nothing whatsoever. You can't have a discussion for a year and then throw it on our doorstep and say, you've got 6 weeks to stand up and say this is unacceptable behavior. You're acting unfair to this community. We've been here for 60 years. We're White Center people. Let's see. But not to be putting our children at risk when you don't know who you're taking into this shelter.
Pat Price, is that?
Thank you. I'm a 30-plus-year resident of White Center. My daughters went to these schools, every single one of these schools, and they're over 40 years old now. That's how long we've been committed to this community. I belong to several different community organizations and pay attention. And one of those is the North Highline Unincorporated Area Council. We were not officially notified by King County this proposed shelter. We heard about it because one of our board members actually lives within the he owns a piece of property within the 500 feet and received the thing in the mail. That's how a whole organization of people in this community found out, put the word out to local social media. I don't want to repeat, you've already got the message, I think, about the poor commitment to communication. Someone has mentioned King County Sheriff's Office compared to Seattle Police. You can read about that on all our local social media, how our sheriff officers are more productive at the Myers Way problems than the King County police officers. And we have our 2 or 3, sometimes we get 4 officers, but we have to share them with Skyway. So think about how much coverage that is. And that's why this group is asking you about security. Your facility north of Roxbury, the Salvation's lovely facility across Roxbury. And I know people that'll never forgive you for getting rid of the pool. Been here that long. That's another whole thing. You please look into what you have for security there in the Delridge community. We hear about that. One of my friends who could not be here tonight as she's ill said, does King County use its own equity impact tool? Did King County commission a fair housing analysis of North Highline? What about opportunity mapping and analysis? You could be made aware, because the county should be, in 2011.
Can we wrap up in a moment?
Yes.
The other speakers would like to speak as well.
In 2011, an opportunity analysis was commissioned by the White Center CDA. I'm sure they could supply you data from 5 years ago. It was distressing then. It could be something you should pursue. Lastly, your notice about this to the community said that alternate sites could be suggested by the community. When you're down to 6 weeks telling this is gonna happen, you don't seem to give a darn about alternatives. You already started the process.
The next speaker is Christina Moy. Would anyone like to respond to the question of alternatives?
What you say?
Wait, can you have the mic over here, please?
Answer the alternative site location.
All right, we've heard it, thank you.
But you didn't
We've
answer.
walked through how we identified this location.
Location.
Well, and I think the alternate, the notice, as you pointed out, suggested the community could suggest alternative locations.
Okay,
And that
you've
was
already
the
decided.
community suggesting alternative.
Did you look at alternative sites?
We looked, I kind of described how we went to and identified this location as the one that.
Answer the question. Did you?
These are all the children.
What are the other locations that you guys
This
have?
is the worst assignment. I'll give you $100 if you can find anything worse than this spot.
The question is, are other alternatives, they said there'd be some consideration possible of other alternatives.
One
Is that a
alternative site
possibility?
did come up in a discussion, and it relates to the DSHS property, also located in White Center in the basement. We followed up on that. That space has been fully leased to CMAR and is in the process of being built out. So we did investigate that site at the suggestion of a community member, and that is the status of that alternative.
What about Red
location.
Shield? I suggested that.
Thank you.
I suggested downstairs.
No, and I
You
appreciate
weren't
that.
aware of that. Hold on. You weren't aware of that location, okay? But yeah, you said, I play baseball, I play soccer, White Center Community, I'm connected. You didn't even know there's a DSHS facility there. DSHS does not talk to DCHS, correct? You don't. Because if you did, you would be looking at alternate connections. You have one bus, 128, that runs across that line with 3 little seats that people that go to work every morning utilize, okay? Over there at Roxbury, you got a hub. And you got cheap alcohol in the same place, and that's what they're there for. Get a paycheck, drink it, shoot it, prostitution, do what you gotta do, go through the rotation, and do it again.
So,
If they wanted help, they'd get on the bus and they'd go find it, and you would be helping them get on the bus and get downtown and get the help that they need.
all right, so thank you for presenting the alternatives.
You're welcome.
How about your backyard? Christina Moy?
You're the government, you should have more sites to know about.
We put it in your backyard?
I'm a resident here since the early 80s with my parents. So I've gone to all these schools that they've mentioned tonight. A lot of it is expressed how we feel about what's going to happen in November. So it's going to happen. It sounds like it's going to happen, right?
They're telling us.
Okay, so anyways, just a few things. I'll make it brief.
I won't let it either.
You know, I feel that there should be a shelter somewhere in White Center. But in a residential area where there's homes north, east, south, and west of that building. Children walk to school. My child goes to school. Once in a while he'll walk. But it's not as safe as it was back then to walk. Like when I used to walk to school. So I'm glad that this community is here today to voice your opinions, what's going on. These questions haven't been answered to our community. And this is sad. You know, so I don't know what to say to you folks that our community is suffering from this. And we need to hopefully talk again and find solutions. Because homelessness in White Center is real. Everywhere, it's real. So I just hope tonight we can hopefully down the road find a solution. Because November, that's only 2 months away. This community doesn't really need a shelter in the residential area. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Maxwell? Diane, please.
Well, most of you have voiced your opinions. My
neighbor is the one that got me here. She works with the schools, and she's very upset, as everyone is, because they weren't notified early enough. Last year, when you were starting planning, you should have had these meetings. The young woman that sat right there had a good alternative. A few years, I'm a caregiver, and we had a meeting down in the International District and asked our opinions what we could do to help the children. And at that time, I said, utilize schools that were not being used, and I never got an answer back. And I was given awards and all kinds of stuff. I wanted answers then. They're want answers now. Why they weren't informed way back when you were planning this, so they could give their opinions. And I do feel it's very unsafe when you don't have any criminal history background checks. I'm not above having a shelter somewhere, because the Highline United Methodist Church a few years ago had a tent city in our backyard. They are very respectful people. They are very monitored. They weren't allowed alcohol. If they had it, they had to leave. And we helped people there. My thing was they weren't informed enough about the community around them. But they should, you should use something like that young woman described, where it's away from children. It's very important. Right now in our everyday lives, we're even afraid to let our children play in the backyard, let alone walk to school, worrying what's going to happen to them.
Thank you.
Utilization of schools as an alternative. Yeah, I think we can, one of the things we're taking the questions, we can look into the alternative schools, and so we can do that, and we can post the notice. And I know all of you have signed in and given us your email addresses, so we'll make sure that we send out the answer to that. One thing I want to ask a question on to you, actually, because it's come up a few times, is this path to school and the concern about the timing and the timing of the shelter closing and sort of coinciding. So I think one thing that we can explore is how we can extend the hours that it's open in the morning so that there is not a conflict.
Location.
It's not about the hours. It doesn't matter when you release them. You release them into a residential area that is inundated with children that use it, and they feel safe. They feel safe in their neighborhood. You're taking the neighborhood away. Put them in. You have children. Hey, Mark. You have children. We had a discussion.
Okay, I'm sure King County is taking into account what you just said and what you just said.
Let's talk. Let's have open forum here.
Sorry, it's a little hard to follow which question, so.
Hey, Mark, I have one question. I'll be done.
1,500 feet of school.
Mark.
Just about the alternative, about people, you made the point about people leaving later.
Right, so could we extend, so I understand that the location generally is an issue. I think we've heard that pretty clearly as far as the location. What I'm trying to say is, are there ways that we can mitigate the concern through operating hours or?
You don't police the people that are here now.
You didn't give us the content.
Are you gonna do something about that?
So the point of the shelter is to
If
address.
somebody's hiding in my house, are you gonna do something?
Allow them to
Somebody's
respond.
parked out in front of my house.
What about the ones that don't want to buy my controls and decide they're gonna sit around?
So, we, as I've talked about, we have the outreach services that we intend to use for the people that are in your community. A number of you have pointed out the issues that you're having now that we talk about over here about sort of the, where Burien, White Center, unincorporated King County and Seattle come together, the encampments in those locations, and others. We will be doing outreach to those specific locations to people who are already in your community, who are causing a number of the issues that you've identified and being able to trying to address those. This is something that goes beyond, the outreach services go beyond the county line. Sound Mental Health works beyond simply White Center or Burien. They work in this entire area. So it isn't as though if it is over the border in the city of Seattle, they are not going to be doing outreach to those folks and trying to engage with them and bring them into a shelter and address
The next speaker is Carrie Sinderich. Carrie?
Hello, my name is Carrie Cinderidge, 26 years old, born and raised, White Center. Homelessness, crime, all of that stuff has been an issue since before I was around, you know? So I guess my question is, what is the rush? You guys, no one has come in before? I mean, maybe people have come in before and maybe failed, I guess, I don't know. But if these resources haven't been available before this, why are we rushing something that clearly the community is not on board with? This is definitely an issue that needs to be addressed in this neighborhood. I have a heart for this community and for the people of this community, including the homeless members of this community, and I think this would be a really amazing thing if it had been thought through thoroughly, if it had been addressed correctly. And so I guess I want to know, what's the rush? Why is it opening in 6 weeks? Or, why are you guys trying to open it in 6 weeks when it hasn't been addressed properly before? And I'm 100% for it being addressed properly. But yeah, I guess that's how I feel.
Thank you.
So I think the question about what is the rush, one of the things we try to do with our shelters, whether they be emergency or long-term, is really try to address in the period of the worst weather and the coldest period. So obviously November is when we historically opened up emergency shelters throughout the county. And we really are hoping to be able to have this shelter provide not only all of the case management services we need, but also a safe, warm place for people to come in out of the poor weather. So
How about
that's
because
the
you guys not giving us the information? Because you guys hid it from us.
The next speaker is Barbara Dobkin. Barbara? Okay.
Hi, I'm Barbara Dobkin, and I'm also a board member of the North Carolina Incorporated Area Council. There's been a lot said about the disappointment of the notification. Even at the county CSA meeting, which is where we're supposed to be notified of all county activities yearly, nothing was said about this. Or nothing was also said about 300 units of low-income housing that are going in Top Hat. Or the plans after the shelter, which is for what Steve Dashel had come to our meeting back in the spring, about 80 units of low-income housing going on the site where the shelter is now. We are presently a community of poverty with a 25% poverty rate. Our median income in this community is $30,000 less than the rest of King County. We have progressively been getting poorer in this community, and this is by design. This isn't by accident that this is happening. We're a community of low opportunity. Our schools are suffering. Our people are suffering in this community. People are being driven out of the high-priced areas in Seattle with nowhere to go. Steve Dashel told us the reason they would want to build low-income housing at that site is because people are being pushed out of Seattle. So why is it that White Center is a catch-all for things that nobody else wants? If social justice means that you concentrate poverty in White Center, then I get it. Otherwise, I don't get it. Thank you.
So there's been a couple comments on the equity and social justice issue, and I think I hear your comments on the affordable housing and the low-income housing. I think as it relates to the shelter specifically, a couple of points. One, as we've mentioned multiple times, the shelter really is to address the people who are already homeless in White Center. So those are people who are in your community, in this community now. So, and the reason we know about people who are homeless is that they are disproportionately minorities, people of color, and other sort of underrepresented populations. So again, a shelter really is designed to help those folks, and we know from an equity and social justice lens that many of those people are underrepresented populations that need the opportunity to come in and get assistance and get into housing.
The next speaker is Anthony Paiva.
to Seal the Gardens over here, and I do see quite a lot of activity that goes on. With this shelter that you propose to open soon, my concern is for policing and security of that area, especially for the children. The other question I have is, it seems that Seattle is making unincorporated King counties, Seattle's problems is making King counties our problem. And I don't think that's fair to the residents. We just found out about this, and I actually was shocked that the notification process was lacking. So I would like to know what kind of policing or what kind of increase in the sheriff's department or Burien Police or SeaTac Police, what we are gonna have, what plans are in order, and what can we as residents of this community expect?
Thank you. Self-policing.
Yes.
So there was a question earlier on the security piece, and there is not a plan to increase sheriff patrols in White Center. The sheriff's and community police officers that are here now deal with the homeless problem every day in various locations and in the encampments in the downtown. And they will continue to do that and provide that security piece. Again, I think what our experience is we're able to bring people in from all of those various locations into a shelter, then we are able to address the issues that they have. We're able to know where they are in a single place, and then able to help keep eyes on where those folks are, and really address, again, sort of the core issues that these people have. People don't want to be homeless, and we are...
You just said earlier that there's...
Go ahead.
93% failure ratio.
We're not gonna have the needs that we need met to safely live in our own community.
Right, and the other piece was sort of what's the staffing and what's the sort of eyes on at this facility. We talked about the contact number. There will be people there whenever there is somebody in that shelter. There will be people there when the shelter closes. And we are also talking about how we can provide folks at that facility, even during the day, to ensure that whether people are coming and inquiring about the shelter at that time during the day, or are coming early, that sort of thing, that we have people at that facility who are able to manage that piece. One of the things that we do in some of our shelters, and we can explore with the Salvation Army, is how do we manage people coming and sort of queuing up at a location. It's an issue that we have in a variety of places. If people know that they have a place in that shelter the night before, they do not come necessarily earlier to that facility and sort of stand and loiter outside. So it's another thing that we can do. If they know that they have a place to stay that night, that we can manage that, and it will not be sort of the queuing and waiting out in front for the shelter to open.
Once they're here, you don't get rid of them.
The next speaker is Timothy Wallender. Let's give the gentleman a chance to speak.
I am very frustrated at 7% success ratio. That means 93% failure. I've got a piece of paper here. I'm trying to open it quick because I know this guy is just watching his watch. By the way, how much are you making tonight? I wrote this. Did you receive these flyers? That is listed below. See, I got it listed below. I took theirs and I copied it and I stuck it on here. And I ran around my neighborhood and I show it to people and they look at it and say, my God, I never heard of that. Last night. They shouldn't do that. They should not do that. And by the way, all of you guys have said this is going to happen. Well, it's not going to happen. Number two, I called the police department. This is years ago. We live right up by Mount View Elementary, and I called the police department because the bowling alley had now turned into a casino, and all of a sudden there was a bunch of ladies walking around, sweater girls, you know, they pull your eyes over the wool. But these guys are trying to pull the wool over your eyes. And the fact of the matter is that those ladies led me to think, something's going on. You get my drift. And so what I did was I called the police, and this officer came over and he walked in, he barely fit through our door.
And we talked to him and he helped us out. He helped me understand how I could help the police in fighting this garbage. Well, that guy got his head blown up. A couple days later, it's Officer Cox. And what I'm saying is that casino that moved into our neighborhood brought our neighborhood down. And that's what's going to happen with this right here. And I wonder which one of you gentlemen is going to stand up and say, I was there voting for that. And now this little girl has got raped or something. God forbid.
Carol Ann Ship.
I have them walking up and down my street, checking all the car doors to see which ones are unlocked, because if it's unlocked, they go through it. You can't take care of the people that are here now.
That's right.
Let alone bringing more in. What are you gonna
Out of here
do?
with
What
that
are you
idea.
gonna do when it's full and all these people have no
Ms. Ship
place
is
to go?
waiting to speak. Please let her speak.
I know you're very passionate. We all love our neighborhood, and I think that's why we're all here today. Not out of concern for the homeless, but concern for our neighborhood. And people that join our community are our neighbors, and we all know our neighbors, and we don't know these people. We don't know who you're letting in. There is no vetting process, correct? It's a very low threshold, and I understand. Being homeless sucks. I've lived in my car for 6 months with a baby. It was not a pleasant experience. However, I did have people that were willing to help me get out of that position. And it was helpful, but only when I followed certain parameters of behavior that you need to follow in society to fit back in. I need to make sure that I'm in a safe space. I need to make sure I'm doing things that keep me and my child safe. I need to make sure that I'm in a neighborhood that's safe. So when I moved to this neighborhood with my family, it is a safe space. I cannot keep it safe if I do not know who is in my space. So I would really appreciate you to take extra measures to please think, I mean, I know every mother's always, think of the children, but really, please, think of the children in this neighborhood. They're already at a disadvantage. We don't need any more disadvantage in our neighborhood.
Ingrid Stone.
I've heard a lot about it being temporary, but I haven't exactly heard how temporary. Is it temporary until it becomes permanent, and that's just something we haven't gotten to yet? Or is this going to be a temporary thing? Also, I'm kind of concerned, we talked about the parameters, but are there searches? I mean, are we going to be coming from, taking the sweeps from the encampments that you'll see out in the jungle and other places that have high crime? Or you're not looking at just drugs or whatever, you're looking at rapes, assaults, homicides that happen practically weekly. Are those people going to be some of the people that are going to end up in our community? Are they going to be bringing guns with them, knives, or other things that they're not being screened for in our community? We have, a bus line right here off of 8th, and they have to walk right by an elementary school. What are they carrying with them? When they're leaving here, are they actually, leaving? Are they leaving safely? And what can you guarantee that when it comes to the overpopulation, which will eventually happen when there's 70 beds, there's not going to be enough beds for everybody. What do you do with the overflow people that end up just camping in the local parks that are already overrun?
So, first question to how temporary, we were saying up to 3 years. What we're saying. And again, it's sort of the interim use while the planning for the longer term redevelopment of that site goes on. So that's the time frame that we've set for that. And then related to the people coming in and barriers and sort of screening, again, I think we've said this, these are folks that have been in this community now. We are really, through the outreach piece, looking to target the folks who are here. Not looking to bring people from downtown or from the jungle. This is really, I don't have control over that. I can, through the outreach process, we can actively work with those folks to bring them in. And our hope again, and just to comment on, our hope again is to get folks in, connected to services, and shelter, The other thing that we do know, I think there was a comment on the 7%. One of the things we know is that that is low. One of the reasons why we are moving to an enhanced shelter service, which is different than the one that the Salvation Army has done on an emergency basis, is that we feel like we can dramatically increase the number of people who we connect to housing. So it will not be 7%. The data is national data based on 24-hour and extended shelters throughout the country in connection to rapid rehousing, and how we're able to connect that. I agree, 7% is not good enough, and our
But
intention is to...
that's your argument, is 7%, right? 7%?
No, it's a different type of shelter. The downtown shelter is an emergency shelter open from 8 o'clock at night until 6 o'clock in the morning. There is not sufficient time in that period to do thorough case management with those
Are you
folks.
gonna thorough case management when they're asleep? Are you gonna thorough
Have you
case?
already told the homeless people that you're opening?
We have not mentioned this to any homeless people.
So if we were to go around the community now and ask them if you've been informed of a new homeless shelter that's being opened up, they would say no? Because I'm sure every one of these people in here will go and do that tonight.
So,
Real quick.
so let me just say we have about, in
Hold on,
respect,
I
we
got
have,
one.
we have 25 more people signed up,
Yeah,
and they have a right to speak too.
It's part of this,
I
Mayor.
wanna allow
It's part
them
of
the
this
chance to
conversation
speak.
right here.
So I would ask that the points are being made very clearly. I
Well,
think
no,
that
it's
they're being
about the
heard.
hours.
We have 25 more people here, and I would ask that you make a comment clearly or a question within, say, a minute time frame, so that we can get.
There's not enough time.
All you're doing is repeating it.
He just said the hours don't work.
So Patrick O'Neill,
Listen,
we're continuing on.
Hold on, just one
Patrick
second.
O'Neill.
If you're gonna have hours, are you gonna do outreach when they're sleeping? Because it's overnight. How are you gonna outreach, hey guys, by the way, hey man, here's a ticket, here's your outreach. When they're sleeping. That's a great plan. Go ahead, please.
Hi, so I didn't get a notice, so I'm not 100% sure. You mentioned King County intends to open a shelter. Is that 100% sure, or is it still?
Yeah, so any input that we're giving tonight is.
So no,
You won't open a shelter.
So no alternative sites were ever wanted. You never ever wanted it.
Please, go ahead. Finish your thought, please.
So Mount View Elementary is about 1,200.
Speak right into the
1,200 feet away from it.
Yep.
Cascade Middle School is less than 1,000 feet away.
6,000.
Is that what it is? I'm just curious, considering the proximity, and I don't know if you've ever been out there at 2 p.m., but it's just kids everywhere, and in the park. So I'm just curious, considering the proximity of the school, would the county be amenable to changing from a non-screening facility to maybe something that the community would be more comfortable with, like a women's shelter? Is that something that the county would be willing to consider?
How about the families that are at Mount View that are homeless that can use that space? Absolutely.
Thank you for your question. So as far as looking at a screening type facility, one of the things that we know countywide is that one of the issues we have in addressing our problem is that we screen too many people out of shelter and housing already. So one of the reasons why people are not, and that is why we end up with many people living on the street. We were able to not screen people out of the housing and the shelter, and be able to bring more people indoors and get them out. So that is why we operate not here, but as well at our other facilities, whether they be in Bellevue, which we have shelters there, in South King County, in Seattle. They are low barrier shelters designed to make it amenable for people to come indoors and get connected to services.
To bring in the ones that can't make it in the other shelters.
Betsy Wheelock. Betsy Wheelock.
Hi, I'm Betsy Wheelock. I live west of here, and I've lived here about 12 years. But I think that, people lived here a long time, or people lived here for 2 days, everyone's opinion is valid. I'm curious why this shelter is not also open to families.
So that's a good question. Why is the shelter not open to families? We know that having single adults and couples without children and a family shelter do not work as a commingled facility. Because they present with different issues, and the outreach you need to do to a family shelter is different.
They don't want to keep these other drug abusers around campus.
And so where our acute need for shelter services is single adults and couples. We have facilities for families, and we're doing outreach to those already. So this is our acute need, and it is also the need that is seen most in this community as far as who is homeless and presenting in this community.
You're not answering my question.
I thought the answer was, why do we not also open this facility to
Why do you
families?
not commingle the two populations under your roof?
Because of the low barrier nature of the shelter, having
Because
single
it's
adults
not
and
safe.
families.
Because there's sexual abuse.
Please, let him finish.
It's not safe. Just there. Just say it.
Problem is, don't say low barrier, say exactly what you
Allow him to finish, please allow him to finish, please.
So, what I know from our operators is that they do not operate shelters that are both family and single adults. There are a variety of reasons. Safety is one of them, and also all of the issues that those folks present.
School. Where's the moral compass of the human? It's not safe. It's in there. but
Okay,
it's
the next
safe.
speaker is Sue Miller.
Your school.
Sue Miller.
I'm telling you, it's the last question first. Why can't the kids?
Is Sue Miller
I
here?
am Sue Miller. I'm our
And you, you've already had a chance to address that once, so,
You just told me.
ask your question in 1 minute, please. Ask the question.
Oh, no, you just called her name. Answer her question, and I'll take my turn. Answer her question.
He's attempted to answer the question. Okay, let's, okay, please, Keith Leonetta has been patiently waiting to speak. It's his turn to speak.
Don't get it, Pete.
Please, let's, we're gonna give a fair time to people who have not had a chance to speak yet. Please, we're trying to. So it is his turn to speak.
Why do you think they will be safe 5 minutes later when you leave them?
So the question is, if safety is a concern for putting single adults and families together in a single building, why is it okay to have a building where children are walking by and schools are in the general broad facility? First, I would say we operate shelters throughout the county that are in residential communities, near schools, not near schools. And whether, and as well as,
It's not about having a building, it's about sending the people
other
from the
piece
building
is,
out during the
these
day.
folks are going to be, when we have the shelter operating from 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock, and if we are able, I think it's probably being suggested, extending the hours, these folks are going to be indoors receiving the case management services that they need. So,
Absolutely, keep them during the day when
and,
the kids are at school, not when they're at home.
the other piece that we talked about is sort of who's going to be available during the day. We're working with the Salvation Army and others to make sure that, and as part of a suggestion, what are the ways that we can sort of increase eyes on the street in that location? And you've very clearly heard the concern of the children walking down the street and the shelter operating at the same
Takes
time.
that down, that last comment is not ours, that is yours to extend the hours, that's not something anybody in this room has approved of. Yeah, take it off.
We need to all get together, put some money together, and get a lawyer, that's all there is to
Okay,
it.
please finish your thought in a minute so that Mr. Leonetta can have his turn.
What is the legal distance that sex offenders can be around children?
Good question.
It's 880 feet.
How far is it?
Mr. Leonetta?
How far is it to Mount?
It's your turn to speak.
Do you all know?
How far is it from?
I think we all agree what you guys are doing is
Thank you. Go
criminal.
ahead. Please.
It's pretty much criminal, the way that the process
Hold on, let him talk.
that this is happening. I think we all agree that it was not done properly, and it's, I think, criminal. Probably should start out with the fine that it is criminal. I don't really have any questions, because I think, I don't really like the answers I'm getting from, they're not really answers. I've been in this park
about 7 years now. I've got a retail shop. There's a disc golf course here. Some of you probably are aware of, maybe some of you aren't. This disc golf course has actually improved this park quite a bit. It's taken about 30 years to get rid of homelessness and everybody's concerns. And you're inviting that back without anybody's input. I didn't find out about this. I found out through
social
neighbors that approached me. You didn't reach out to any stakeholders. Like I said, I've had my business in here 7 years. I give 1% of my sales to King County Parks.
Not no more.
With this kind of activity, especially, the location is what we're all saying. The location is terrible. Around schools, in a public park. This park, it's literally 300 feet from the building. So that's where they're gonna go. So the location sucks. And it's criminal what you guys are doing.
Kristen Tubbs. Kristen, I think it's Kristen.
Next name on the list.
Get Jesse.
Hi guys, my name's Christy. I've been here about 25 years. It doesn't matter how long you've been here. We all know there's a homeless problem here. I don't have any kids, but you're right, it's location. It's location, it's location. And we've all said it today. The communication was atrocious. Atrocious. Had you communicated to the local schools and their parents, you would have had to have Safeco Field here. You would have communicated to the news, you would have a much larger crowd here. I had to find, I don't even know how I found out. I found out with a friend that was concerned about the kids in the neighborhood. I don't even have kids. Finally, I can jog in the morning through that park without worrying about being adopted. Finally, I can run through that park in the early evening without any worries. And now, we know there's a homeless problem. I would love to work with you on a solution, but it can't be in that picture. Not there.
Lamont Nelson.
He's my neighbor. He had to leave. He asked me to speak for him, so I love this opportunity.
Okay, take 1 minute, please.
You said you're.
Lamon's right there, so how many minutes?
I've asked everyone to speak for 1 minute.
Michael Ramos. Yo entiendo.
Go ahead,
En
please.
inglés es 1 minute. I understand. Go ahead. Hear me out. Each and every one of you, like you said, I heard the right term was criminal. We've got to get people together here. We're going to create a GoFundMe page. We're going to put together, I don't care if it's $1, $2, $5, whatever you have. We're going to get an attorney, and we have to put an injunction on this. We have to stop it. We have to. We have to stop it. Because you know what? I'm going to tell you, I don't know you, Evergreen, I don't really know you, but you tend to intimidate people that way. You look at them, it's just maybe you're, oh, that's cool, I understand that. But, Mr. Elderbrook,
Please don't personalize it.
No, I'm not. No, hey.
Be fair and finish your
Mr.
point,
Elderbrook,
please.
we had a conversation earlier, okay? And for this is for all of us, to just think about this. You have children. You have children. Everybody in here has children. Every one of us is somebody's baby, okay? When I go home tonight and I live adjacent to that park, I'm gonna look at my kids, I'm gonna grab them, I'm gonna hug them. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do when they open that park up, okay? And I gotta sleep with my kids and rearrange my house so I can sit there with my gun on my chest. That's what I'm gonna do, okay? But you're gonna be sitting back, and we had this conversation. You have babies, you have children. I'm a coach. I coach youth sports, football and baseball in the community. Been doing it for years. I see it in their eyes. They need help, they need compassion, and this is the wrong place.
Mark Buckey. And again, I'm asking people to keep comments for a minute.
My name is Mark Ufkus. I live in White Center, raised my family here. They went to all of the schools you've mentioned. I spent 3 years as the White Center Chamber of Commerce president, and we organize a number of community meetings that included business owners, churches. We went and met with a number of churches, service providers, and law enforcement to deal with the homeless issue in downtown White Center. So I have a bit of a background, and so all I would offer is one thing, is that Victory Church, you mentioned Victory Church, they had an overnight overnight homeless service that they provided.
Still do.
And they still do, and it's right across the street from a park and from all of these services. You've had a couple of burglaries, I've had 5 burglaries on my street, and I'm not near Victory Park, so we all have burglaries. But the point is that we've had an overnight provider in White Center that has had some success, at least at taking people off the streets. In fact, when it froze at night, my kids and I would go out with flashlights and herd people to Victory so that we'd get them off the street because it was freezing out and we didn't want them to die. My point is this, that the good news I'm hearing is that many of you stated that White Center needs to do something about the homeless, and that includes providing a facility. That's the good news. And if you really believe that, then that's part of your conversation with the county, is that we're going to do our part to have some facility in White Center that's going to provide some kind of service. We have hundreds of, we used to do homeless counts. I've done 3 different homeless counts in White Center, and we have a lot of homeless people in White Center right now that need some kind of support or some kind of path to a future. And so the good news is you guys are on the right path. We need a facility. And the second thing is, Dow's doing this because we didn't agree to be annexed, you guys. He's just cramming it.
The next speaker is Lois Shipper. Lois Shipper, is she here?
I'm here. So my name's Lois Shipper. I work at Public Health in White Center. I worked in the building that we're talking about. I think we have, the homeless are in our community. They are on every street that I mean, they're everywhere where you walk in White Center. It's not like letting them go in the morning is gonna put them in any place different than they are now. I walk by them, our kids walk by them. We need to get together as a community and find a solution. I do say, I work for King County 6 weeks. It ain't enough. It is not enough. This is a community that's committed to the community and that comes together on a regular basis to work together as a community, and you need to give us a chance to do that.
Kathleen Paulson. Kathleen Paulson. She's in the back.
Yeah, actually, I was going to make. So, thank you for the comments and everyone's comments. I appreciate that this is a challenging issue. I think a number of points were made. I think the last 2 speakers talked about how can we work together as a community to look at this. I would be interested in having a follow-up meeting with folks to talk exactly about what was discussed from the last 2 speakers and others about how do we look at addressing this issue in the community. Our belief right now is that this is the facility that we're going to use for a shelter. But there are ways that it can be operated. There are ways that it can be modified to help address those concerns. So I would like to suggest that we have a second meeting to follow up on this. And I'm...
Second meeting for another place? For you offered us a chance to give suggestions for another location. What you are telling us right this minute is it does not matter if we give a second location, you guys are gonna go forward with exactly what you're telling us. So this is a mute point that you're giving us an opportunity to find another location because we've never been in the conversation.
So what I'm
you know what?
offering
You're
is...
telling us we have no choice, and if we go into another conversation, it's gonna be the same thing.
Okay.
Unless you stop the permit process right now and give us some time.
Yes, we're willing to talk. We're willing to be a part of the solution. Give us the chance.
So I'm going to suggest that we have a second discussion on this, and it will include operations of this facility. I hear you loud and clear. You don't want a tier, you want an alternate location.
Yes, everyone has said that.
And some people don't want to hear it all. So I hear that loud and clear. I'm going to suggest that we have a second meeting and we try to work through a number of these points. Alternate locations, as the meeting announcement said, is something that we can discuss.
Can the
So-
location be announced to the whole community?
Yes, and I hear the announcement to the whole community. So I want to do that and offer that. There have been a lot of comments. It's also 9 o'clock, and there are a lot of people who want to continue talking. I want to respect people's time. I want to respect people's comments and offer a second opportunity to have this discussion. And so I kind of want to leave it at that. And if people have signed up, we have your email addresses. We can follow up with you on the next meeting. And place, time, and we can also, to your
Expand the
point,
notification
is
out beyond
extend the
501.
notification.
Expand the notification out
I hear
beyond
the
501.
expand the notification, I hear it.
You're putting a stop to this right now until that happens.
Yeah, when is that gonna happen, a target date?
How safe they're gonna feel?
Okay, then, so what I understand is that, I'll let the thing, just a second. So we'll let our young friend speak in just a second, and then the proposal is to adjourn the meeting. They have to remake the room for another meeting for tomorrow, and that there would be a second meeting, and
When?
well, my understanding with King County is there will be notice about the meeting and widely spread, as you suggested, to take up the issues that have been discussed.
Hi, my name is Jaden Landreth, and I go to Cascade. I just started going to Cascade, and ever since they sent out the papers, every single day I hear at least 3 children talking about walking home from school right near the homeless. Like, I'm sorry, I am not afraid of all homeless people. I am afraid of what I hear from my parents, from all these people in the room that are saying that I could get raped walking down the street. You think that's okay to have a 12-year-old little girl walking down the street and getting hurt? And let me just say this, when we put our money together and go to court, are you guys going to stand up and say, yeah, it's okay if a little girl gets hurt, it's fine? Are you going to say that? Exactly, you aren't. Because what you're doing is wrong.
I just want to ask, we skipped over Keely earlier, I didn't have a chance to say a word, and then we are going to adjourn.
Children shouldn't have to have that fear.
Hi, everybody. So, I'm gonna try not to cry, because the thing I want folks to realize is that this isn't some beat-down neighborhood. This is a strong neighborhood. And the strength of this neighborhood is shown by the passion that's been raised by all the people here today. What is so ironic is that this isn't about the homeless people at all. Nobody's trying to diss the homeless people or try to not get support. In fact, I think many of the same people who have concerns have been raising the flag around what are we going to do to help the homeless. And what the other side, what so?
I don't know, who else has been homeless?
Please.
Honestly, raise your hand.
Please allow her to speak, thank you.
She's over here standing there saying that, no, that we're not trying to help the homeless. You don't know that. You don't know, most of us out here have stories. That's
Thank you, so please allow her to finish.
Let me finish, babe. So the thing that I just want to say is that White Center, this community, we are a community's opportunity because we know how to get stuff done. And we got designated to be a site, one of the communities of opportunity site, because people speak truth to power here. And it doesn't make sense a lot sometimes, but we rely on the relationships that we have with our residents to guide our work here in White Center. And I don't care if, you don't have to know me. You don't have to know the CDA or what we do. You just need to know we live in a community that deserves the best, to be respected and to share information. When I was in a meeting around this, it caught me off guard. And my first thing is always saying, okay, well, the community got to know. My point is that anything that we do on behalf of this community, the community needs to be part of the conversation. What I don't want to see is another community like White Center to be marginalized and to be done unto and have a decision made on their behalf, and they're not in the room either. What I am asking for is a a citizens committee to work with the county, to work with Mark and his staff, with CSC, and also people who are homeless, a couple of folks from the homeless community. Because they are the people who could best identify the support that they need. Not a lot of us, although we know how to support. But we need to get the right folks in the room to talk about this. I will urge the county, please put a hold on this. This community deserves it. And when you come to White Center, we are going to be respectful, but we rely on the relationships that we have in place with the county, and we rely on your ability to do something bold on behalf of this community and to take a step back and to look at it on the behalf of the homeless folks who still need services all over the county. Let's show them what you can do in White Center by having the community, people who are impacted, and our institutional partners be at the same table to talk about it. So that is, the role of White Center is to take care of people. This isn't about, we hate the homeless. This is about how do we make sure that a strong and vibrant community of White Center remains that way. So we have a lot to offer. We have a lot of solutions, a lot of leaders who are here who can help to really create the path for this work to move forward. So I'll continue to push with the relationship that I have with county folks. And I urge you to please take a step back, put this on hold, give us the respect that we deserve. Thank you very much.
Celia, thank you very much for saying that, and I will take you up on that offer as far as putting together a committee. I think that is a great idea. There have been a lot of comments, and I think we can use that to work through how we collectively work as a community and as a county to address the homeless situation regionally, but specifically here in the county as well.
And
so it
put it
is
on hold.
9 o'clock, and as Michael mentioned, this room needs to get set up for a meeting tomorrow. We will put all of the meeting notes and the questions and answers on the website.